All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. Today it rained last night and cooled things off a little bit. I went for a walk this morning and it was not too hot and steamy. It was pretty nice out, so it was a nice change. And you know, the last few classes we've done have been pretty constant movement and flowing. And a little more fluid and stretchy. Today we're going to work on some strength and do some lower body hip work. So we'll work on mobility through our hip joints, but we'll also kind of work on strengthening and really gaining awareness of all those muscles around the hip joints. But first, let's just start in a comfortable seat for a few breaths, so you can just tune into your breath. You don't need to do anything to change it yet, just notice your breath. Does it come in and out of your nose or mouth? Where does it go in your body? And see if you can let it just come in and out of your nose. And thinking about the nature of learning and life and growth. And it moves in patterns. And I know for me, I feel like my life has kind of gone in a spiral, that I keep circling back to the same lessons. But hopefully as we circle back, we gain a little more wisdom, a little more awareness, a little more insight, so that we can have a little more depth of our experience. And there are some things that we just are continually unpacking. And maybe it's just memory, or something triggers something inside us to revisit something that's happened in our past that continually teaches us lessons. And as we go through our practice today, we will be kind of just repetitively revisiting our hips, our hip flexors, but in different ways. So just notice if, as we spiral back to the same thing, if you can have a little more insight and wisdom about what it is to move and grow and strengthen there. Let's take a few more breaths here seated, but really pay attention to your diaphragm. So you can either wrap your arms around your rib cage and just hold the sides of your rib cage with your hands, with your arms crossed in front of you, or you can just bring your hands to your lower outer ribs, whichever feels more available to you. And see if you can really just breathe into your hands. Just breathe expansively out to the sides. And then let everything recoil in. Inhale through your nose. Pause at the top of your inhale. Exhale through your nose. Pause at the bottom of your exhale. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, expansively into your hands. Pause. Exhale. Just release that. And come onto your back with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor. I'm going to turn this way. And now just let your hands rest either by your sides, on your belly, feet about mat distance apart, knees knock together. And bring that awareness again to your breath, into your diaphragm. See if you can breathe into those lowest ribs connected with the mat underneath you. Really let your rib cage expand in 360 degrees. Out to the sides, down into the mat, and up. Notice what happens to your belly as you breathe in. Really think about getting space between all your ribs and let this be some work as you breathe in and expand that lowest part of your rib cage. And just release that effort. Just keep breathing in and out of your nose. See if you can relax your face, your shoulders, and your neck if they got involved in any of that. And bring your feet hip distance apart. And just start to move your pelvis. So really push your lower back into the floor. You can lift your tailbone up. And then switch that. Lift your lower back off the floor and tip your tailbone toward the floor. So just little pelvic rocks here. Notice what muscles you need to use to really lift your tailbone up and push your lower back vertebrae into the floor. What muscles do you need to use as you lift your lower back up and tip your pubic bone toward the floor? Wake up all that awareness there. And then we'll start to make this movement a little bigger and get into a really slow segmental bridge. As you lift your pubic bone up, push your lower back vertebrae into the floor. And then see if you can just pick up just the vertebrae right above your sacrum. And then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. Go really, really slow with the spinal articulation. See if you can just lift your back up into your bridge one vertebrae at a time. And you don't need to come into a big chest expansion. Just come up, so you come up to your shoulder blades. Just pause briefly, and then we'll come down just as slow, one vertebrae at a time. Just notice what you need to engage to let this happen. And notice what parts of your spine are really accessible to your awareness and what parts are a little trickier to feel and find. And just one vertebrae at a time, lower yourself down. Notice what happens when you get to your lumbar spine, to your lower back. What do you need to do to really be able to lower that down slowly, one at a time? And then come all the way onto your sacrum and just let your back relax. And then we'll do that again. Maybe a little faster, but still one vertebrae at a time. Really push your lumbar spine into the floor as you lift your tailbone and your sacrum. One at a time, lift that lumbar spine up. Get to your mid-back. I know I really have to recruit my glutes to be able to get my lumbar spine up. Come all the way to the top and pause. And then roll yourself down. You need to use that deep belly to really let your lower back vertebrae come down before your pelvis. And now just walk your feet about 1 footprint away from you, closer toward the end of your mat. We'll do the same thing. So push into your feet and kind of feel like you're dragging your heels back towards your shoulders as you lift your pelvis, then lift your lower back, lift your mid back. And with your feet farther away, your hips may not come as high. You're going to have different engagement in the backs of your legs and your glutes. And then roll yourself down. And then 1 more footprint away. Just take your feet 1 more footprint away. And push into your feet. Push that lumbar spine into the floor so you can lift your tailbone first. And it might be a totally different experience here with your feet further away. Just lift. You may not go as high. Maybe shaking somewhere. Just notice the muscles that turn on. Really turning on our hamstrings. Let yourself lower down as segmentally as possible. And then straight legs on the floor. Really push into your heels. Okay. And then just think about lifting up into that bridge. You're not going to lift very high, and you may not lift at all. So let your rib cage be heavy on the floor. Push into your heels. Maybe your pelvis can lift. Just feel all that engagement through your hamstrings, your glutes, and then lower yourself back down. And then 1 more time with knees bent, and feet flat on the floor. Just segmentally lift. Tailbone, sacrum, lower back, mid back, upper back. And just pause there at the top. Notice if it feels any different in your hamstrings, if they feel stronger. And then lower yourself down. Release the effort. Take your feet as wide as your mat. Just windshield wiper your knees from side to side. You can get a little shoulder stretch here if that would be nice for you. If internal rotation of your shoulder doesn't bother you at all, take your left hand underneath your lower back, and then you can continue palm face down, and you can continue to windshield wiper your legs here. And then we'll switch hands, just unthread that left arm. And then you can bring your right hand, palm face down underneath your lumbar spine. Or maybe up toward your shoulder blade. Just kind of listen to what feels friendly in that right shoulder. Back and forth. And then release that right arm. Bring your knees back up. And bring your feet back to hip distance apart. And just bring your right knee into your chest and lengthen it up toward the ceiling. We're not going to use our hands to hold on to it. Just use your hip flexor strength to draw that thigh towards you and really reach through that hamstring. Try to keep a natural curve in your lower back. Just a little bit of space, and find some ankle rolls. Just each direction a couple of times. And then externally rotate. So turn your knee to the right and then bend your knee and just flex your foot. And then cross that ankle toward your left thigh and then open it back out. And then cross cross our ankle towards your left thigh and open. You're just using the left in that hip. And then the next time your ankle crosses, you can just pause there. Let your arms come out to a T and then just rock back and forth on your hips. You can bring that right foot toward the floor on the left side and then that right thigh toward the floor on the right side. Just kind of rock back and forth. The next time your foot comes over to the left, we're just going to roll onto our side, and you can use your left arm as a pillow for your head. Stomp that right foot on the floor, but energetically push that knee away. And we're going to lift that foot up and bring your knee towards your armpit. And then just bring your foot back to the floor and push your knee away. Engage through your hip. If you use your hand to help you, you can. Do your best just to do this with your hip strength. Bring it back down. One last time, bring your knee up. Bring your foot down. And then you can roll back onto your back, same arrangement of your legs. And you can lift that left foot up off the floor, but don't use your hands for this figure four stretch. Just rock side to side here, flexing through that right foot. You can draw that left knee closer to you. And then release. Right foot to the floor, lengthen that left leg up. And really push up through that left heel. And draw that thigh closer to your chest. See if you can find a sense of a natural curve underneath your lumbar spine, but your lowest ribs stay down. Circle through your ankle. Just get the morning cricks and cracks out. And then externally rotate. So right from the hip, you're going to turn to point your knee to the left and then bend that knee. And just with your muscle strength, bring that ankle over that right thigh and then open it out. Over that right thigh and open it out. Over that right thigh. Open it out and then cross that left ankle over your right thigh and you can kind of rest it there. And we'll find those rocks. So rock your hips over to the right, back to center, and then rock to the left. The left foot will come to the floor on the right side. And then your left knee will come toward the floor on the left side. You're moving from your center. Rock over onto your right. And just use your right upper arm as a pillow. That left foot just comes to the floor. Your knee is pointing up at the ceiling as best it can. And then pushing toward the foot of your mat. Then lift that knee up and bring your knee towards your armpit. I'm just using my left hand in front of me. And then place it back down. Lift it up. And place it back down. So as you revisit these movements from different angles, right, like what do you learn about your experience, about being in your body? That one last time. And then rock back onto your back. You can let that right foot float up off the floor. Flex through your left foot. And then uncross your legs, just reach both legs long up toward the ceiling. You can have your hands overhead. hands by your sides. We're just going to lift and lower your hips. So it might be teeny tiny. You might reach your feet towards your face to listen or decide. But just little rocks, just lift your hips with straight legs. Make sure everyone's muted. And just keep doing that. Do 1 or 2 more of those. And then rest. Just let your sacrum come back down to the floor. Take your inner feet together and then let the soles of your feet together come together and bend your knees. Keep your feet as they are and just bring your legs towards straight. And then bend, draw those heels towards your pubic bone. And then bring your knees together and let your feet go wide. Feet together, knees wide, lengthen up. Feet towards your pubic bone. And then knees together, feet wide. And just kind of go through this internal and external rotation of your hips. Feet together, knees wide. Knees together, feet wide. Feet together, knees wide. And just lengthen up. Let's do that one more time. Lengthen up. And then bring them back down. And then just find 90-degree angles of your legs. So you're kind of in tabletop legs, but you're laying down. And just drop your right knee out to the side and then bring it back up. So you're not rocking your pelvis, you're just letting your hip move. Left knee out to the side and back up. Just go back and forth. Let's go right. And then when you go left, we're just gonna roll over onto our left side. You can use your left arm as a pillow again, and just let your right hand come in front of you, and we'll find some big rotations of our hip. So just let that right knee hover, and then push your foot back behind you. Really find some hip extension there. Engage through your glute, and then point your knee up at the ceiling. Bring your knee towards your armpit, and then circle back to where you started. And then we'll switch directions. Knee forward, up to your armpit. Knee points at the ceiling, and then push that heel back. And come back to where you started. So just go back and forth through both directions. These big hip circles. And then release. After you've done both directions a couple of times, come back to center and just find that left knee out to the side and up, and right knee out to the side and up. Just go back and forth and notice if it feels different from one side to the other. Let's go left. And then when you get to your right, just open that out to the right and roll to your right side. You can use that right upper arm as a pillow. Let your left knee hover, and we'll find those big circles. So really engage through that left glute to extend your hip. And then knee toward the ceiling, toward your armpit. Circle it around back to where you started. And then switch directions. Into your chest, armpit, ceiling, extend it back. Both directions one more time. Pretty slow. Okay, you're really exploring the full range of motion. And then go ahead, come back onto your back. Hold on to the backs of your thighs. Just gonna roll up into a boat. And just pause here in your boat. And then roll back. Go back and forth holding onto your thighs, or you can let your arms come out. Roll back and forth a few more times. And then go ahead and come up to your boat. Let your feet come together and your knees go wide. And just reach. And then switch. Knees wide, feet apart. So let your core really get involved here. Feet together, knees wide. Knees together, feet apart. Feet together, knees wide. Knees together, feet apart. Feet together, knees wide. And then just pause in your bent knee boat. And then we'll just roll over to the left and let your legs kind of find a 90-90 arrangement, okay? And then come back through center, and you can keep your feet down and then roll to that 90-90 to the right. You can do that with your feet down, or you can do it through your boat and have your feet up as you come through center and rock to your 90-90. Come through center and rock. And then we'll meet in Baddha Konasana. Just bring the soles of your feet together. And see if you can do this without your hands. Bring your heels in as close as they'll come. And lengthen through your spine. Now push your outer feet into the floor and then see if you can, with your muscle strength in this outer hip engagement, push your knees toward the floor any amount. Push into that left foot. You're just gonna float your right foot up off the floor, bring it up toward your chest as much as you can, and then straighten that right leg forward and bring it down. Use your hands behind you if you need to keep the integrity of your spine. We're just gonna lift and lower that right leg. So you can have your hands anywhere. And just lift and lower. All right, lift that leg, bend your knee, and bring that foot back to your Baddha Konasana. And just pause. Push into your right foot, really energetically push that right knee down toward the floor and float your left foot up. And then lengthen it out and lower it down. Use your hands behind you if you need to help that integrity of your spine and that engagement of your core. And just lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift, bend your knee, and come back to your Baddha Konasana. And then just let your knees come together and just lengthen your right leg forward. And just let this left knee fall out and then come back up. And let your left knee fall out and come back up. Let your left knee fall out and come back up. Let's do that one more time. And bring your right knee in, left leg long, and then right knee out to the side. And then back up. And right knee out to the side. And come back up. 2 more. And then lengthen both legs. Now I'm going to grab some blocks. If you have blocks, you can grab them. They're not mandatory, but they're fun. They're good feedback. Okay, so we've really turned on that deep belly and our hip flexors here. So we're going to play with that. You can use your hands behind you as much as you need to here. We really want to integrity through your spine. But I'm setting my blocks just outside of my two straight legs. And here I am in staff pose in tittibasana. Have your hands behind you or alongside your hips, or just hands like at your heart or floating. Lift that left leg straight up, out to the side, and plant it down. So I'm just going over this block. It's just kind of feedback, but you can have an imaginary block, right? Lift it up and then bring it over. And we're just going to go side to side. So right leg up and over and out, and then back to center. Keep that integrity through your spine. So if you need to lean back, it's totally fine. So you lift and go out and up. Lift and go back. Okay. Let's be done with that. And bring your blocks behind you if you have them. If you don't, you can just use the floor. But let them, if you've got blocks, let them be a little bit wider than your hips. And then plant your hands on your blocks behind your bum. Bend your knees, feet flat on the floor. And bring your hands to your blocks or the floor behind you. Draw your shoulder blades together. Push into your hips, and then you can lift up. And hopefully that feels good through your hip flexors after all that work. But then we're going to use them again. Push into your hands and then straighten your legs, swing your bum back. So it may be trickier on the floor, especially if you have short arms like me, but it's doable. Really use your belly to lift your bum up and back. You can use your fists on the floor. That gives you a little bit of height and saves your wrists a little bit. Let's just do one more. Lift that bum back. And then set it all down. Move your blocks out of the way. Cross your legs. And rock into your first downward facing dog. We've been moving for over half an hour. That's our first downward facing dog. Just kind of check in with how you're feeling through your core, through your legs. And then just look up at your right hand, step your right foot behind your right wrist, and then bring your left knee down. Let's come up into a low lunge and just kind of hang out for a minute, just to kind of release through that left hip flexor. Reach your arms high. And just enjoy. Engage through that left glute. You can even grab onto that left forearm and find a side bend there. And then come through center. Bring your hands to the floor. Tuck your back toes. Lift that back knee, and then rotate that left heel down and cartwheel yourself up to your warrior two. And you can kind of wiggle here, maybe bend and straighten that right knee. Shift your hips from side to side. And just find some freedom in your hips and then let yourself settle. Inhale to reverse your warrior. Get a nice big side bend here. And then exhale into your side angle pose. So that may be right forearm on right thigh. And left arm alongside your ear. That may be left, right fingertips to the floor inside that right foot. Or a block. And then just find some big arm circles with that left arm. 2 times in each direction. And then just plant your hands down and step back into downward facing dog. We'll do that on the other side. So just look That left wrist, step your left foot forward, right knee down, and come on up into your low lunge. You can reach your arms high. Maybe find that little side bend here. Just let your breath naturally come in and out of your nose. And then release your hands to the floor. Lift that back knee. Rotate your right heel down and then come on up for your warrior two on the other side. Adjust your feet as you need to. Kind of play with your hips. Been doing a lot of movement there. So just feel them. And then inhale, reach up and back, reverse your warrior. And then exhale, find your side angle pose. Forearm to thigh. Maybe hold that inner ankle, hand to block or floor. And then find two big circles in each direction. And then reverse. And then cartwheel hands to the floor. Find your downward facing dog. If you want to do a vinyasa, if you want a lower up dog and then down dog, feel free. And look forward between your hands. Step your right foot between your hands. And we'll just come straight into warrior two this time. Ground that left heel and come on up. Find that freedom through your hips. And then find a place where your shoulders are stacked over your pelvis. Let your arms be wide. And then just bring that left hand behind your lower back to find your reverse warrior here. And then exhale into your side angle pose again. Forearm to thigh, hand to floor. Kind of lean back into the opening of that left shoulder. You can stay here, you can play with snuggling that right arm underneath you, maybe reaching for your left fingertips or wrist. And then unwind your bind if you have it. Bring your hands to the floor and then just walk your hands to the left. Parallel your feet and find a wide-legged forward fold here. And just bow. Check in with both halves of your lower body. Notice the difference between your right hip and your left. Right leg and left leg. And then walk your hands over to the left. Turn those left toes to the left. Set up for your warrior two on the other side. And just come on up. Adjust your feet. Adjust your pelvis. Until you feel like you've got some freedom here in your hips. And think of that right femur bone going toward the back plane of your body. So you've just got some spaciousness. And you've got support through your lower belly in a way that's not rigid, right? You have plenty of space to breathe. Your core is just reflexively taking care of you. And then back of your right hand to your lower back. Inhale. Reverse your warrior here. And then exhale. Find your side angle. Forearm to thigh. Fingertips to floor or block. You can lengthen. Lean back. Open through that right shoulder. If you found that bind on the first side, you can snuggle your left arm under. And bind here. And then release. Walk your hands to your right, parallel your feet. Lengthen through your spine and then let yourself fold. Come up halfway, just onto your fingertips. And then just toe heel your feet close to each other. Bend your knees and come down to the floor. I am going to use my block for this, my blocks. They're just going to be a little bit of feedback. We're going to come down into a wide-legged forward fold. Got my 2 blocks in front of me. So let your legs go wide, 90 degrees or a little bit wider. And then let yourself sit tall. Just gonna bring my hands to my blocks and then push them. Just let them slide me forward and then slide them back. So you can totally do this without blocks. You can do this with just sliding your hands on the floor. I kind of like having the height of the blocks. So if you have them, you can do that. But really think about this movement coming from your hip joint. Okay? It's not coming from your back. And so you're gonna slide forward as far as it's coming from your hip joints. And like my feet are not rocking in and out, my legs are still. Just leaning from the hip crease and then sliding back. Let's just do one more. Come on up. And release. Bring your legs back together. See if you can just lift them. I'm going to face the long edge of my mat. Again, and we'll do that reverse table again. So you can just use your hands on the floor or fists on the floor. We're going to try to lift our hips up again. And maybe even lift our feet. So I like to have some arm lengtheners with my blocks. Bend your knees. Push into your fists or your blocks. Lift your hips. And then bring your hips back. And then maybe even float your legs. And then you can bring them down. And just try that maybe 2 or 3 times. And then release. Find your wide-legged seat again. I'm just going to face this way this time. So legs wide. And we'll just find some side bends. So bring your right hand inside that right knee. Left arm up and over. And bend into your right elbow. And then we'll just come on up. And just cartwheel yourself to the other side. So left hand or forearm inside that left leg. And just go back and forth. Let's do one more time on each side. And then bring your knees together or your feet in. I guess not all the way together. So about mat distance apart. Got about a 90-degree bend in your legs. And then just bring your inner arms to your inner thighs or your upper arms to your inner thighs. Reach your heart forward and just kind of resist. Arm into knees, knees into arms. Lengthen through your spine. And then you can kind of let your back round here. You can stay here, or we'll move into malasana, move into a squat. So you can find your squat and just kind of see how it feels after all of that hip mobility and strengthening work we've done. And then push into your feet, come on up. And then come back down. And only come down as far as you know you can come back up. And we'll just come back down and up a couple of times. So all of that hip flexor strengthening we've done, I want you to think about that as you come down into your squat. Think about bringing those knees into your chest. And so you're kind of pulling your body down with your legs and then push the floor away. And then one more time. Pull yourself down and then push the floor away. And then parallel your feet, but let them stay wide. Soften into your knees and let yourself come into a forward fold. And you just hang out here. So you can just hang out here in this forward fold, giving you an opportunity to play with an arm balance. If you want, I need my blocks for this because I have short arms. So I'm gonna set my blocks up behind my heels. We'll do firefly or tittibasana. We've worked our hamstrings, we've worked our hip flexors. We've done a little bit of shoulder, but not taxed our shoulders too much. So just bend into your knees and just kind of snuggle your arms back, like you're putting your legs on like a backpack. And you can just kind of hang out here. And you're just kind of curled up into a ball, let your bum stay pretty high. And this is fine. You can just kind of stay and play here in this kind of really compressed forward fold. You can try putting your hands on the floor. I need the length, the height of blocks, and just kind of see if you can kind of lean back and kind of sit on your arms. So you can just play with that. Maybe reach your heart forward and lean back a little bit more. Maybe float your toes up off the floor. Maybe bring your legs towards straight. You don't want to come all the way straight. And then come on out. You can play with that a couple of times as you want to. If you're not playing with that, go ahead and come on up to standing. Wiggle your hips out. And just recalibrate yourself in a mountain pose. Just stand with your feet parallel, shoulders stacked over your pelvis, pelvis stacked over your heels. And just kind of feel what all of that lower body, hip flexion, hip mobility work we've done has done in your body. You can stay there if you want to play with the arm balance again. I'll kind of show you what it's like without blocks. Have your feet pretty wide so you can come down and really snuggle yourself. And then bring your fingertips to the floor behind you. And then maybe sit down. I have such short arms, but that does not work for the geometry of my body. You can play with sitting, and maybe you just float your feet. Maybe you just bring your feet toward each other. And then go ahead and release. Everyone come to a mountain pose. And then think about keeping your ribs low and reaching your arms high. And just pause there. Feel the length through your whole body. Lift up through your arches. Reach up through your shoulders, feel length and space for your breath. And then interlace fingers behind you, open your heart here. And then with soft knees, just find a forward fold. Open through your shoulders, or just keep your hands resting on your lower back and just kind of let your shoulders round. And then we'll make our way all the way to the floor. Same place we started. Come down onto your back. And set yourself up for a bridge that you can hold. So feet hip distance apart. You could start with robot arms, really push into the floor to kind of engage those back muscles, and then lift yourself up and just pause. You could hold onto outer edges of your mat. Interlace fingers underneath you. You can bring a block underneath your sacrum. See if you can find that turning on of your hamstrings, a little bit of dragging your heels back towards your shoulders. And you can use your glutes. Don't feel like you're trying to crack a nut or something. You're really squeezing your bum, but use your glutes in a way that will let your hip flexors release. And then go ahead, if you don't have a block underneath you, come down and take a break. Feet wide, knees together. We're circling back to a place we've been before. Just notice if you can approach this with a totally different perspective. Maybe a little more insight and wisdom. Come back into a bridge. Keep your gaze straight up at the ceiling. And find the support of your shoulders and your arms in a way that really supports your back bend. Space under your neck. Relax through your face. And then release. Come all the way down. Feet as wide as your mat, and just windshield wiper knees from side to side. And then end that movement. Just bring your right knee into your chest and then lengthen that right leg up. Find the natural curves of your spine. Your lower ribs on the floor, your back of your pelvis is on the floor, and there's just natural space into your lower back. You can maintain that, lengthen that left leg. Maybe walk your hands up that right leg a little further. You could always grab a strap. And then release that leg, bend your knee. Use your left hand to steer that right leg over to the left. Let your right arm reach to the right, look to the right. And then rock back to center. Right foot on the floor, left knee into your chest, lengthen that leg. Grab onto the back of your thigh. Find the natural curves of your spine. Walk your hands up a little further. You can always use a strap. You can keep those natural curves of your spine. The low ribs on the floor, back of your pelvis on the floor, with just a little space into your lower back. You can lengthen that right leg. And just notice if you're bringing tension into your body anywhere, let yourself release. Breathe in and out of your nose. And just telling your body that you are safe and strong, capable of handling whatever comes your way. Bend into that left knee. Use your right hand to steer it over to the right. You can look to your left. And then come back to center. Maybe just hug both knees into your chest, or do a happy baby. Set your spine up symmetrically. If there's any last moves you feel like your body needs, feel free to take those. And then set yourself up for your final rest. And it actually might feel really good here to have a folded blanket or towel either under your knees to kind of release your low back, or under your bum to give more space for your hip flexors. So either way, if you have something like that handy, I'm just going to put a blanket under my bum. And let hip flexors release. When we talk about tight psoas muscles, those hip flexors, and how detrimental that is to our posture from all the sitting that we do. But that doesn't mean we don't want to use them. We want to have strong muscles that we can use our agency to engage and release. So you can think of this diaphragmatic breath that you're using as you lay here as a massage for the connections of those hip flexor muscles to your lower back, your lower vertebrae. And it's all in really close proximity to your vagus nerve. And it's that visceral sense of safety or danger. And your diaphragmatic breath really teaches your whole nervous system how to be calm and collected. And after you've settled in, just let go of the effort of breathing. Let your breath breathe itself. It'll probably get shallow, and that's fine. Your body's not needing a whole lot of extra oxygen right now. You're just playing. So notice if you're tensing through your neck or shoulders, your face. Using a prop for your shavasana is bringing any discomfort that you can't relax through, just move it out of the way so you can totally let go. And Let yourself stay here for as long as you have time. When you're ready to come up, find a bend in your knees. You can move any props out from underneath you. Rock to one side, use your arm strength to come up. Take a couple of breaths in a comfortable seat with your hands at your heart. Offer some gratitude to your breath, to the strength in your body, and to this experience on this earth. The divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Namaste. Ladies,